The first one we're going to start is with Wayne Buhler and the pesticide stewardship project he's been working on. So Wayne, if you want to go ahead and get your slides up and take it away.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday afternoon. It is sunny here in North Carolina, and I'm pleased to be with you. Thank you, Joe and Kayla, for organizing this. It's great to see a lot of friendly face tiles out there. I am, most like you, probably missing the human touch, and it's certainly very difficult to give a presentation, even, especially about a website, right, via Zoom. But I'm going to make the most of this. I've been given 20 minutes, but I really want this to be more of a discussion and potential collaboration. And I'd really like for you to be a buyer. Now, better yet, an owner. And I think once we kick the tires and look under the hood, hopefully you'll agree that this is a kind of project that you could roll up your sleeves and be involved in. I certainly hope that would be the case. Many of you on this call are colleagues, counterparts of mine. It's good to see you. You're probably familiar with this, and I'm glad for that too, because you could chime in on the discussion. So here it is, the Pesticide Environmental Stewardship website, the address. You'll see that throughout the presentation. I think that's a good marketing scheme, right? And I've sworn to an oath with my counterparts that we would celebrate National Pesticide Safety Education Month, and you invited me 1 month too late, Joe. So this is definitely going to be a belated celebration because National Pesticide Safety Education Month is in February. But this is good preparations for 2022, which we hope to host here at the Pesticide Environmental Stewardship website. You could certainly gain a lot more insight into that by going to the site. I encourage you to do that this weekend. Spend some time sorting around and seeing what might be of interest to you. I work as the Pesticide Safety Education Program Coordinator at NC State, which means that I read a lot. And trying to keep up with email and everything else is certainly not the easiest of things to do. Here it is, quote of the day: weeds resist, insects persist, and fungus continues to grow. That is, unless stewardship is practiced and new tools are introduced. I saw this in an Ag Web Farm Journal, and I thought, wow, this is really hitting the spot. And basically it does. In some ways, it kind of quantifies what I do every day. Maybe it spells job security for some of us. But what I'd like to do today is give you a little bit of a flavor for what I do as a pesticide safety education program coordinator. And then also give you some background for the talk for today, which is the Pesticide Environmental Stewardship website, and hopefully increase your awareness of that and gain your interest in participating. I'm going to use a lot of acronyms. PES is the one you'll hear quite often, and we'll try to do a walkthrough if all works out well with Zoom today. But really, what I'd like to spend more time on is focusing on IPM and you, and that's basically the commercial or promotion for your engagement in the process. If I could encapsulate my program in one slide, I think this is the best I can do. Basically, what my mission is as a pesticide safety coordinator is to promote the responsible use of pesticides through educational resources and training. And here in North Carolina, it's a big ag state. We have over 16,000 private applicators. That's about a third of our farmers. And they need to be certified. So they're part of this regulated community because they use restricted use pesticides on land they own or rent. And then we also have this large cadre of commercial applicators and dealers and consultants. There's about 22,000 of those in North Carolina. And what I really wanted to do here is just to show you the vast audience that I address. This is what I call a captive audience, because these are the folks that come to my program for initial certification, to get the training materials, and then also to attend workshops. But also they're the ones that look for information and recertification programs. And so that's something that I can't do, all right? It's impossible for one person to do that in any state. And so I work very closely with our extension agents, our extension specialists. But one of the things I've realized, at least early on, and I've been doing this for 23 years, is that there really is very little in terms of maybe a single source, a go-to place for pesticide safety or stewardship information. And so that's really been the goal of PES, which is basically to create this central repository. People refer to them as a web portal, maybe a one-stop shop for up-to-date information on proper pesticide use. So who is our audience? Well, it's just the folks that I mentioned in my previous slide. It's anyone trained or untrained who handles pesticides, those providing advice and training, such as our agents concerning their use, and whoever has concerns about pesticides in the environment. So really, it's an open website. It's open to the public. And I'm pleased to see that we have a pretty large audience, at least here in North Carolina. I hear from our agents that are visiting us this all the time for resources they can use in their training. Our goals, if I could put them into three, they are to provide a web portal for pesticide stewardship information, to direct users then to links or resources by topic. You know, as I'll show later on, there's a lot of information and misinformation online, and you don't need to hear that just from me. But in essence, what I wanted to do is to make sure that we had a place that people can go. First, they could get summarized information on stewardship, and then they can go to some really good sources. And there's no shortage of really good sources of information out there. So basically, this acts as a hub or linkage to those sites. And then, although it's not been done yet, I hope to be able to develop online programming for recertification of our regulated community, or licensed applicators or certified applicators, preparing them for certification exams or even recertification credits. What you see on the right side are a couple of screenshots. One that shows just a little bit more in depth in terms of what it looks like inside of our resistance module. This points out the mechanisms of resistance. We did that diagrammatically to try to drive home the point. And then also on the bottom of the screen, you'll see where we refer to websites. These are the linkages to resources as well as other resources that are useful, that don't need to be reinvented by any means. Things like the Herbicide Resistance Action Committee or the Global Herbalization Classification Tool, right? All of those related to proper use of herbicides to either prevent or deal with herbicide resistance. So the topics are broad, and really they reflect information that would come out of most any core manual. If you're in any state, you'll have a pesticide safety education general standards or core program, and this is ours. This is the manual cover. These are basically following almost probably chapter to chapter information within the core manual and some extras. But really, these are the core issues that we face pretty much on a weekly basis within pesticide safety. So that is a really robust list. It's a hard amount to keep up with, and there's not just one person that can do it all. So who gets involved? Well, the funding comes from the NSF founded Center for Integrated Pest Management, a newly found permanent director, no stranger to this group, of course, Tenacious Seth Carley. And since 2005, really, CPPM has been able to provide financial support. They do this through their industrial affiliates program, and I'm very grateful for that support. Some of those monies go out to counterparts and colleagues of mine that have contributed. You can see those listed in the yellow box here. And then we have an amazing army of reviewers already. These are the folks that have come in with their expertise and told us what we can do to improve our content. The process, well, it's kind of sort of like this Rubik's Cube. Basically, as you could see, the first cube that's kind of jumbled there has a depiction of what I would consider information and misinformation online. And there's no shortage of that. We all deal with that in every industry. What our task has been within PES is to compile the best of the resources that are out there and summarize that information and then have it go through appropriate review so that when it is published online, we feel really confident that is accurate, it's up to date, And it's very meaningful and useful information that, again, is targeting this audience, these folks that are, and many of the other folks on this call are involved in terms of training, as well as to continually provide resources and education for them. So that's really the introduction. I'm hoping now that I can escape from PowerPoint and actually demonstrate to you the Pesticide Stewardship website. So let's give this a try.
For those watching in the chat, you may also see the link to the website there.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to have to stop share and try it again. Okay, are we there?
Looks good.
Excellent. All right. So again, really difficult to demonstrate a website. I just encourage you all to visit. This is our homepage. It has a number of resources that you can link to. It tells you about the creators and contributors. But really what I want to point out here are the list of topic areas or modules. This is a special part for the Pesticide Safety Education Month. But beyond that, our subject matter, again, that I deal with pretty much on a weekly basis. It's hard to tell you, you know, what would be of the greatest interest here, but people are coming in from all areas. We've had over 381,000 hits in the last year. So I'm really excited about the popularity of the site. This time of year, everybody, of course, has their eyes and thoughts on pollinator protection. So let's take a quick peek just at this one particular module, kind of give you an idea of the framework of the information and how it's put together. Pollinator protection deals with, first of all, an introduction to understand who the pollinators are. And by essence of being economical in my space and providing concepts, we're focusing mostly on insects, primarily honeybees as pollinators in this module. Here are the sources for which I've borrowed information. Here are the folks, including John Allran, Katie Savinelli, and David Tarpey that have contributed as well as reviewed information. You can navigate to different subtopics on the left panel here. So this is our navigation box. This is a first subpart that deals with honeybees and beekeeping. So I really want pesticide applicators to get a better feel for and appreciation for the honeybee, right? A beautiful soul organism displaying social phenomena, and then understanding how these bees are in peril. So basically understanding things like pathogens, parasites, environmental stressors, management stressors. You know, bees have to take a lot, and they're obviously very rigorous to be able to support that kind of treatment. Pesticide toxicity to bees, kind of difficult to sort through this, but this is what EPA does in order to assess the toxicity of a pesticide, and then also reporting that out in terms of residual time for 25% of the population, and then looking in at field studies and the like. So hopefully, as briefly as I can, give people an information, not overload, but enough so that they can understand the processes by which pesticides are registered. And this talks about the labeling aspects, especially as it pertains to neonicotinoids that have come under some bad raps in terms of pollinators. BMPs abound. And this is a great way of showing to you the number of resources that are available out there. For almonds, I have a long list for canola, corn, and soybeans. Again, a lot of associations have put together some great material. We get into seed treatment. This is the crux really of providing for the proper use of pesticides safely by communicating between beekeeper and growers. And of course, there are a lot of great resources for that, including Field Watch, Bee Watch that's mentioned here. And then lastly, let me also point out that I do want people to be knowledgeable about all of the resources that I feel are important for them to gain a better understanding, both from the standpoint of federal, non-government, extension, beekeeping organizations, the agrochemical industry, and articles and programs of interest. So that gives you an idea of at least one module. The others, I think, run along pretty similar lines. What I really want to get to, and this is the last part and also my pitch, okay, is that we do need help. We're working on reviewing content within the integrated pest management module. All of these, of course, are updated, but this one in particular is the one that we are focusing on. The IPM module, I think, is very robust. There's a lot of information. It has been written many years ago. It's put together from probably an entomological viewpoint more than the weed science and plant pathology one. But we do need help in order to make this, I think, a better template for which we can use it in core manuals, in category specific manuals, and in other modules that we plan to add to the website. In particular, now we're working on one for wildlife damage management. We hope to branch out into turfgrass IPM. Maybe we'll get into invasive species, Joe, one of your favorites, and look at the toolbox for that. So I really wanted to make sure that you are invited. And I think for the most part, everybody has a tendency of working in silos or our own familiar and comfortable ecosystem. But there's a lot going on, a lot of excitement in the air for pesticide safety education folding into IPM, and IPM being a driver within pesticide safety education. So I think this is a great platform in which folks within the IPM community can work closely with folks within the pesticide safety education community, becoming engaged in content development and review, and also in distribution of this information. So I did that, Joe, in 19 minutes.
We got just a little bit of time for questions, and I actually have a good one to start with. A website can't be everything to everyone.
Correct.
You've got good organization of content here. It's wonderful stuff. Who has been your target audience that you're really aiming at with the messaging on this site?
Yes. Initially we had to target the folks that I felt were my target, and that's really the regulated community, those that are involved in agriculture, in turfgrass, in aquatics, in all of these areas in which they are becoming or need to become certified. And that's really the mainstay of my audience, right? But anybody can access this site. And in fact, I find that a lot of people are coming in as homeowners looking for information on labeling and pest management. So I think it's a broad audience, but you're right. We have to target it towards one particular audience. And if it's that one, it would be the certified regulated community.
Okay. We have time for one, maybe two questions, depending on how complex it is. Anybody have one for Wayne? So Wayne, a follow-up with you, you're calling for people to help work with this content, help contribute to it, help review it. Somebody on this call is interested. What's the best way for them to raise their hand and say, me? I mean, should we put it in the chat? Should we email you? What's best?
Yeah, well, they can contact me directly. I put my name, email, and phone number in the chat. So you could probably see that as maybe the third or fourth entry. By all means, I'm wide open, and I'm really very much engaged in forming and helping to form collaboration teams. We're doing a lot of that with on a national level with the National Pesticide Safety Education Center, with the national stakeholder team. There's just really been a great rising of leadership and community to be able to develop programs and collaborations between the folks in the IPM and the PSEP communities. And in some cases, that's actually one person within a state. I think there's at least 5 or 6 folks that serve as the IPM coordinator, as well as the PSEP coordinator. So I would love to see more engagement from the IPM coordinators. from the IPM centers. And also, obviously, this reflects greatly on the Center for IPM, as this is one of the core projects. Engagement is just a matter of calling, sending an email. If you're not familiar with me, talk to Joe. Joe has also been, I think, noosed into helping us. We've put the hook around him and got him involved in several of our collaboration team efforts as well.
I repasted Wayne's information to the bottom of the chat, make it a little easier for you to find. Thank you, Wayne, very much for your presentation. I know we've been looking forward to this, and there's been a lot of talk about cooperating on this, and I think you're going to get some contacts coming to you.
That's excellent. Thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity.